Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Real Estate Roundup. I'm Emmanuel Romanis. Happy Thanksgiving. It's the month of November. Christmas is just around the corner, and the turkey, you can almost smell it from here. As always, if you want to contact the program, simply shoot us an email at realestateroundup@outlook.com. Again, that's realestateroundup@outlook.com. Christmas is my favorite time of the year, but a very close second is Thanksgiving. And as I grow older, I come to appreciate Thanksgiving more and more. Not so much for the eating or the football or dozing off on the couch, but it's for the gathering of family and friends. And again, when you get a little bit older, get a little bit of gray behind the ears, like I have become to get to that point, you start to appreciate those things a little bit more. Home, family, kids coming home from school, getting together with grandma and grandpa if they're still around, luckily. Getting together with aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, sitting around debating about politics, religion, everything you can imagine. But the joy of just being together and having the family there truly is nothing like it in the world. And again, the older I get, the more I really start to appreciate those things. And Thanksgiving, obviously, is associated with home. And, home is where the heart is. And we're going to get into a little bit later in the program of why Pittsburgh is such a great place to call home. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving and possibly some things that you didn't know. The traditional Thanksgiving that we know of today, the turkey, the stuffing, the cranberry sauce, the pumpkin pie, football, just nonstop football. You start to get into some of the holiday parades, some of the holiday programs, things of that nature. They start to creep into play. But in 1621, the very first Thanksgiving was actually a 3-day festival to celebrate the Pilgrims' first successful harvest. And it was a one-shot deal. It was not repeated in subsequent years. Oddly enough, turkey was not on the first Thanksgiving dinner table. In fact, the main course was venison, which was a gift from the Indians. They slaughtered and brought deer to the Pilgrims for the celebration, and venison was the mainstay, but no turkey. In fact, there was no pumpkin pie or potatoes either, as they hadn't yet been introduced into the New England area. So what we think of today as modern staples of the Thanksgiving feast, the very first Thanksgiving dinner had very few of those things. In fact, it didn't become an annual tradition, Thanksgiving that is, in the United States for another 200 years. And that brings us to this month's Who Knew? What was the driving force that prompted President Lincoln to proclaim Thanksgiving a national holiday in 1863? The answer when we come back. Stick around.
Visit the Oliver Miller Homestead, an 18th century reenactment site located just off the Circle on Corrigan Drive in South Park. Self-guided tours are available each Sunday from May 1st until December 8th from 1:30 until 4:30 p.m. with guides in 18th century garb located around the grounds to answer questions and to give information. Your tour will begin in a reproduction bank barn where displays give information on the movement west. You will also see the Miller Still and learn about the production of whiskey and the importance of it and of the Whiskey Rebellion to this area. Follow the Miller Trail up the path and visit the transportation shed, demonstration shed, forge, a reproduction log house, the original spring house, gardens, and finally end at the Stonehouse. Each month, the guides host at least one special event. The homestead is also a great place for tours, tailored to the needs of school-aged children, scout groups, or adults. Visit our website at www.olivermillerhomestead.org for a schedule for the year and much more information on the history of the Miller family, our organization, and pricing information.
Hi Bethel Park, remember me? My name is Jason Planitzer. I was the host of a little show here. You may have seen it. It was called The Jason Planitzer Show.
What would you say your experience with BPTV, how has that had an impact on your life?
I found my voice. I learned how to be funny. I learned how to create things. I learned how to collaborate with people here. I developed an interest in film and comedy and making videos. It stuck with me. It continued through my life. I got into working on motion pictures. I now I'll produce small videos. I'll work with producers on commercials, television projects, feature films. I scout locations on TV shows and movies, which involves me reading scripts, finding the locations that need to be shot, and collaborating with the director and production designer to find the perfect spot. It all started at BPTV for me.
Welcome back. Okay, we were asking the question of what was the driving force that prompted President Lincoln to proclaim Thanksgiving a national holiday in 1863. Again, as I had mentioned in the first segment of the show, the very first Thanksgiving was very different in structure and nature than what we have come to know today as the annual traditional Thanksgiving feast. Well, as it turns out, Sarah Josepha Hale, she was inspired by a diary of Pilgrim life that she read, and she lobbied for nearly 30 years to have Thanksgiving become a national holiday. In fact, she is also the author of Mary Had a Little Lamb. So if it weren't for Sarah Josepha Hale, Thanksgiving as a national holiday very well could have never ended to become what it is today. So thank you to her, and she inspired President Lincoln in 1863. In fact, if you remember, that was the middle of the Civil War, to stop and proclaim Thanksgiving as a national holiday that we have today. Who knew? Now, that leads us into Thanksgiving. Everyone comes home, everyone sits around the table, family gets together. Why do so many people call Pittsburgh home? Well, as you may be aware, Pittsburgh has made a number of lists. People love lists. We list this, we list that. There's a list for almost anything. But Pittsburgh, over the years, has really turned itself around from the old smutty, sooty steel town to what it is today, a thriving cultural center, art center, research and development hub, medical hub, robotics hub. It has really turned around, and a great transformation has subscribed to Pittsburgh. And that's why it is leading on many of the lists that you may be familiar with. And that's why a lot of people have called Pittsburgh home and are calling Pittsburgh home. For example, since 2000, Pittsburgh has made the list, in fact, led the list as most livable city 6 different times, including lists from Economist and Forbes magazines. So again, we're not talking about Joe's blog that says, hey, Pittsburgh is a great place. These are national reputable magazines that have some credibility behind them and take into account many different factors, and Pittsburgh 6 times since the year 2000 has topped that list as most livable city. Not an accident. According to Grosvenor, and Grosvenor is an international development and management group, Pittsburgh's ability to adapt and rise to new challenges makes it the 5th most resilient city in the world. In the world, not just in the United States. That's high praise, very high praise. Take into account places like Rome, Lisbon, Venice, London. Very high praise indeed. A Farmers Insurance study has ranked Pittsburgh the 3rd safest city in the U.S. They take into account factors like economic stability, crime, natural disasters. 3rd safest. Pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. Movada Real Estate Group, which is based out of San Francisco, lists Pittsburgh as the smartest city. This one I can certainly understand. With our research and development, our medical facilities, places, like Pitt, CMU, Google has come here, Uber has come here. We're starting to really attract top-ranked companies, top-ranked talent. The factors that the Movada Real Estate Group took into account were things, universities, education-level museums, libraries, public school rankings. Those types of criteria were all brought in to develop their ranking. Smartest city. Again, pretty impressive. I never knew something like that was even existed, that type of survey as to the knowledge base of a city. Pittsburgh is number 1 in affordability in the whole United States. Number 1 when you compare median income with cost of living. This is according to the 2016 Demographia International Housing Affordability Survey. So again, you compare median income, cost of living, number 1 in affordability. This one, again, is not much of a surprise. Pittsburgh is a very affordable place to live. The housing market here is typically very stable. We don't have the wild swings that you have in, say, a Palm Beach or Miami, where it's literally boom or bust. Pittsburgh remains fairly level as far as the housing market is concerned, and that's one big reason why, is it's a very affordable place to live. National Geographic's Traveler magazine has listed Pittsburgh as a destination for one of the best trips in the world. This one I find kind of surprising, but when they explain their criteria, it kind of brings it a little bit in line. The Steel City transformation over the past quarter century qualifies as revolutionary, according to Traveler magazine. Pittsburgh, has a natural setting that rivals Lisbon and San Francisco, a wealth of fine art and architecture, and a quirky sense of humor. Quirky sense of humor I get, but to be compared as far as natural setting to Lisbon and San Francisco, pretty high praise indeed. One thing that I think Pittsburgh has going for it is the 3 rivers. One thing that I think Pittsburgh does a very poor job of is exploiting those 3 rivers. When I look at places like San Francisco, when I look at our neighbor down in Baltimore, what they've done around the Baltimore Harbor, we're starting to get there, but in my opinion, we are woefully behind the curve. These rivers are magnificent in their layout, in what they offer, and we have done a very poor job of exploiting the Rivers as far as drawing in, companies, residents, entertainment, things of that nature. We're getting better. We're certainly getting there, but it's nowhere near, in my opinion, what it could be. The possibilities of what we can do around the Three Rivers is just, it's just mind-boggling, the things that we can do there, and it just hasn't come to pass yet. Not exactly sure why. I'm sure investment is the biggest reason, but that's it. So anyway, why do people call Pittsburgh home? Those are a lot of big reasons. Thanksgiving, a time when everybody comes back to Pittsburgh. In fact, there are studies abound of, in fact, I'm sure you know as well. People leave Pittsburgh, they come back. A lot of people seem to come back for whatever reason. They like the hominess. One person explained to me, I worked with them, they came from Manhattan. They grew up in Peters Township. They went to Manhattan, got married, got a job, lived there for about 22 years. And now they came back to Pittsburgh. And I asked why, and they said, there's just no place like home. It's their explanation was that the great thing about Pittsburgh is it's big enough that it offers a lot of diversity. Certainly not the diversity of a Manhattan, but it offers enough diversity that you don't get bored and there's a lot to do, but it's not so big that you get lost like you can certainly do in a place like Manhattan or LA or San Francisco, just by the sheer enormity and size of the space. So that's what they liked about it. And I hear that quite a bit in the real estate industry. People that lived in Pittsburgh have left and have moved back. That's a common theme in one way or another. It's big enough that there's a lot of diversity, a lot of things to do, a lot of natural beauty, but it's not so big that you just get lost, you become a number. Very friendly place. You hear that a lot from travelers. As I had mentioned in previous episodes, my wife and I do quite a bit of relocation work. People moving in from other countries mainly for work. But one of the things that is almost a constant about Pittsburgh is the people are very, very friendly. People will stop and help you. They'll stop to give you directions. They're just generally helpful and happy. And that's a very common theme with Pittsburgh. Something I'm very proud of. I've been in Pittsburgh all my life. And I think that's something that we can certainly hang our hat on. So anyway, some reasons to validate why Pittsburgh is a great place to come to, a great place to live, a great place to be. So anyway, let's take a break, and we'll be right back.
This is the voice of Mr. Bold of BPTV, here to explain the basic do's and don'ts of BPTV and public access television. Number 1, public access television. Public access means that BPTV's facilities and equipment are available for any Bethel Park resident or organization to use for the purpose of making a TV program to air on our station. Number 2, not-for-profit. The nice part about this is that all of our equipment and facilities are available absolutely free of charge. Do not come to BPTV with the intention of starting your own home shopping network. Feel free to bring in your favorite waffle iron and demonstrate how it works, but do not ask Mr. Bold to help you sell your favorite waffle iron to the fine residents of Bethel Park. That will not happen. Number 3, volunteer-based production. Bethel Park Public Access Television has a friendly and helpful volunteer staff that will help you make your TV show. You are also encouraged to supply an individual who is willing to be trained on the equipment to help you tape your program. So, do expect to have all the resources and support you need to make a TV show that you will be proud of. Do not call us up like a station for hire and expect us to do everything for you. Number 4, your point of view. BPTV does not dictate or edit your program idea for content. The producer is responsible for the perspective, information, and all content included in their show. BPTV encourages you to make the type of shows you want to watch. However, Mr. Bold would like to remind you that freedom of speech is not the same as freedom from responsibility for what you say. You can say, "You, Dave Cable," but don't be surprised if you get beeped. Obscenity, threats, and slander are not protected under the First Amendment. So, do make the show that you want to watch. Do not be a schmuckatelli about it.
Okay, welcome back. We have a little bit of time, so we're going to delve into the mailbag. The mailbag has been building up for a while, so we're going to delve into that for a little bit. The first one is it's not something that you hear all the time, but on rare occasion I do come across it. It's a very interesting question. It's not relevant to a lot of people, but it's interesting enough that I wanted to highlight in the mailbag this time. And Archie from Bethel Park asks, I am in the market for a new manufactured home, but I can't find a realtor to help me. Well, again, this is something that as a realtor I don't come across very, very often, and the population, quite frankly, that's interested in manufactured homes is relatively small compared to the general population. However, Archie, there are certain conditions when a manufactured home becomes real estate and can be sold by a real estate licensee. However, by the response you've received, I'm guessing that you're looking for a brand new manufactured home right off the lot. And that's where the difference comes in. In Pennsylvania, new manufactured homes are defined as motor vehicles, and as such are sold by licensed motor vehicle salespeople. So what I would recommend is starting with a company that actually manufactures the home. My guess, Archie, is they probably have their own sales department, and if they don't, they would certainly know where to direct you to help you. But a new manufactured home in the state of Pennsylvania is actually considered a motor vehicle. That's why realtors are telling you they can't help you with this, because by law, a licensee, a real estate licensee, is not allowed to sell you a newly manufactured home. Again, not something that you see very often, not something that many people run into, but it is there. And Archie, my guess is that's probably the reason why you're getting the feedback and the difficulty. Call the people that manufacture the home. And like I said, if they don't have their own in-house sales department, absolutely they can point you in the right direction as to, you know, who can help you purchase what you're looking for. One thing that I want to bring up, and again, this really isn't part of the mailbag, but it ties into last month's program when we spoke about mold. But I heard about this through conversations at the office. People that watched the program and they were asking about it because, again, my fellow realtors, they encounter mold as well as I do in selling and buying homes for people. But one of the things that I wanted to point out, again, if you missed last month's program, mold can be very, very hazardous inside the home. But also, you know, when you do see mold, don't immediately panic. It all depends on the situation that you're viewing the mold. As we had mentioned last month in the last program, you know, if you're down in the basement and, you know, you see a little bit of black mold on the brick or on the stone, that's not such a big deal. Take some Clorox, a brush, and you just scrub that right off, and life is good. However, if you see mold growing on the paneling or on drywall that is over the brick wall, that can be very dangerous and very harmful because now the mold is feeding on the drywall, it's feeding on the paneling, and it's spreading, and that's when you can have some serious concern. So again, if you see mold, be aware of it, certainly address it, but you don't necessarily need to panic. It may not be a big deal. So just be aware. Don't panic, but certainly be aware of it, depending on what the situation is in the basement. With that, I want to leave you for this program with a quote, again, based on Thanksgiving. And this is a quote from Henry David Thoreau. "I am grateful for what I am and what I have. My Thanksgiving is perpetual." Have a wonderful holiday. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.